This is Dougie Gilmour. You're listening to Missin Curfew.
Welcome back to a fresh new episode of Missin Curfew Up Dog.
Monday interview editions. It's nice to be back. Nice to be back in the studio, Fetty.
I like the Mondays. I like the Mondays that pop up.
Yeah.
Thanks again to Tyson Nash, that beauty.
That was great. Right from his living room, took time away from his short game to come on. You know,
mental midget.
Oh my God. He's usually I've said this, but he's usually a solid hair guy. You know?
Yeah, I look good. Nice pad.
It's chill. It's chill.
You see the one, the clip last week Princey put up of Shanahan just slashing him right in the face.
Right in the lips.
Right in the lips.
That's how you do that.
And then at the end of the game, Shanahan went back after him, was like pulling on his mouth. I was like, geez.
Shanny, eh?
Yeah, oh man.
God, how times have changed.
Have they ever? Up dog, a big one for me here today. Dougie Gilmour, a guy that I
how you feeling? You a little nervous?
Yeah, I'm a little nervous about interviewing Dougie. I've never met him.
This is legendary.
Yeah, I've never met him. I grew up a diehard Leafs fan.
Killer.
I had two jerseys, Wendell Clark and Dougie Gilmour.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited for this one.
My old man who was here last week, listen, I told him we were having Dougie in studio in 93, and I think even he lit up. That doesn't take a lot to get my dad kind of fired up, but
yeah.
He's a Leafs guy through and through. You're either a Leafs fan or a Habs fan in Canada.
How did he grow up a Leafs fan? Your dad being a good.
In Newfoundland,
in
Newfoundland, you're either Leafs or you're the Habs. You're not even close to being in the middle. You either hate or you love, right? So he's a Leafs guy. I grew up obviously an Oilers fan from Alberta, but nonetheless, I want to say my first year, I had a chance to lace it up with in a game against Dougie. 2002, 2003. I have to go back.
Let's look.
I have to go back to the schedule because I played 9 games.
Like they say in Entourage to drama.
Tell me who he played with.
Like they say to drama in Entourage. How fucking old are you?
Yeah. But tell me what team he was on in 2003.
Standby.
Or 2.
2002, 2003 was with the Montreal Canadiens and the Toronto Maple Leafs. He played one game for the Leafs and got hurt. I remember that.
In 2002.
Nobody played 60 games for the Habs in 2002, 2003.
I got to go back and look at the schedule because I want to say like I was blown away.
That would be
blown away when I saw that. It was one was seeing Stevie Y, which I was 19, and then the Lindros and fucking Messier. It was pretty nuts, but.
And then it was, speaking of seeing this, is they picked Dougie back up from the Canadiens back to Toronto. We were all fired up about it. His first game back, he fucking hurt his knee, and that was.
Well, this is going to be great. I cannot wait.
I'm fired up, fella. Dougie Gilmour, fella. Welcome back to Missin Curfew. Up dog. When you were growing up, who was the jersey?
Yeah, I was an Alberta guy, but I was a Fort Mac kid. I had the 99 jersey.
You had the 99.
I liked Messier. I like Gretz, but yeah, I had a Gretzky jersey.
Well, I had two. I had Wendell Clark, and I had this guy, number 93, Dougie Gilmour. Dougie, thank you so much for taking the time to join a Missin Curfew, buddy. This is honestly a humbling experience for me, buddy. You're my favorite player growing up, so I appreciate you taking the time.
No, my pleasure, guys. Thank you.
And I want to start off first and foremost with your nickname, Killer, right? I mean, it's got to be one of the best nicknames in the history of the game. The way you played, you deserved it. But first of all, Dougie, who gave it to you? And did it have anything to do with the movie Slapshot, obviously, Killer Carlson?
It did not.
Okay.
Brian Sutter was my roommate. He was our captain for 5 years. And, he taught me how to compete each and every night. When coaches or people say, don't take the game home with you, he says, take the game home with you. So I was a 155-pound centerman. I came out of junior with a lot of points, but I made the team in St. Louis as a checker. And I was 155 pounds. I had a mullet. So Brian called me Charlie. It was Charlie Manson. And that's where the name changed over to Killer a little bit later. But to this day, if I see Brian, he calls me Charlie.
Missing a couple teeth, long hair.
He was 155 pounds, had a mullet.
That's good. Hey, just talk a little bit about St. Louis, Dougie. I played there. I finished my career there. You were just a youngster coming in with the Plaguers and, the history there, the Sutters. Bring a little bit about that for your first experience in the NHL.
Yeah, you know what? I was in August. I didn't have a contract yet, and I was in Dusseldorf. So I was there for 2 weeks, and I was going to sign there. And then there's a Harry Arness bought the team from the existing owner, Rolf Samprina. And at that time, Ron Caron came in, and I came back right away. I left my equipment in Dusseldorf, and I had to get all new equipment just to get out of there in time. So it was a great experience. We had Bernie Federico, Blake Dunlop, Guy Chouinard, Larry Patey, Mike Zook, and then Alain Lemieux, which is Mario's brother. So Jacques Demers was a coach, and he said, I don't care how many points you had in junior, I need a checker. And so, come on, I was 23 pro or 23 minors or 65 pro. I wanted. So I ended up getting the job, and I got to play against the best players in the world each and every game. And Jacques Demers would say, we're playing against Edmonton. If Gretzky goes to the bathroom, go with him. So I followed him all over the ice, and I think these guys might have been a little hungover that game because we were winning 5-3. Going into third period, they woke up and they beat us like 7-5.
Welcome to the 80s Oilers.
Yes.
Yeah, they were between the first and second, like, boys, let's shake this hangover off here and get her going here. Let's get her going. But Doug, you mentioned as a checker when you growing up, when you're coming into the league, like, you obviously play with that chip on your shoulder throughout your whole career, and then eventually you turn into the scorer you were. But did you have to teach yourself to play with that edge, or is that something that you had in junior and growing up, like that little, if you fuck with me, I'm going to stick you or whatever, that chip on your shoulder you had?
Yeah, there's different components of that, guys, because, you know what, when you're a small guy, I didn't get drafted my first year. My second year, I got drafted in the 7th round. Some players in my team were drafted ahead of me. Guys I played against were ahead of me. So I had a chip on my shoulder. And it was, I think it was my second game going into my final year of junior. And I get in a fight with Mike Eagles. And I'm a lefty. So is he. I didn't know that. He broke my nose and cheekbone that game. And I got home. My brother is 13 years older than I am. He played with Daryl Sittler and Dan Maloney and London Knights. And he went on like 6-7 years in the minors, but got in the car. I was going back home to get my nose fixed, and he goes, "What are you doing? You know what? Play with an edge, but you know what? You don't need to fight anybody right now. The team needs you, and so you know what? Just go out and play your game, and everything will take care of it." So, and at the same time, guys, you know what? The best thing that ever happened to me, the motivation side of it, was the scouts, media. Everybody said I was too small. So I just wanted to prove everybody wrong. Once I put my helmet on, your eyes spin a little bit, and you're petite.
The eyes get a little squirrely. Yeah, the wires cross, and here we go.
Honestly, when I took my helmet off, guys, half the time, you get out of the shower, you're drying your hair, it's like, did I really do that today?
Yeah, totally.
But you had to. Like going into a game, I never looked at who I was playing against as a forward. I looked at it, who I was playing against. Just say Chicago. You had Marchment. You had Steve Smith. You had Chelios going to run you every shift. You had Dave Manson. So this is what I got to face and get ready to play against that night. So that was my motivation. Is just who am I playing against tonight on the blue line?
That's a little different than the skilled guys today when they go up there. They're not quite thinking the same thing, Dougie, when they get up for pregame nowadays as you were, where you're like, oh, shit, Dave Manson, here we go. Look out.
Yeah, no. And you know, going into the league, like, you know, Philadelphia, Ben Wilson. And it's like there was a guy I'm looking at in Philly, standing at the kind of inside the red line, looking at their team, and there's a small guy over there. He looked like he was like 38 years old. And Brian Sutter steps in front of me. He goes, "What are you looking at?" And he goes, "Well, who's that guy?" He goes, "Do not look at him. Do not go near him." It was Randy Holt. So,
I'm going to do you a favor, kid.
Yeah, do not even look at him.
Yeah.
So
that's beautiful.
No, we used to have guys like Brian McGrath and Colton Moore and these guys. Like guys on my team, Doug, like, don't even look at them tonight.
Let them sleep,
if they're not doing anything and they're not fired up, please God, don't get them going.
Yes.
I'm going to have to get my ass kicked if it does happen. But Dougie, we're big guys here on Missin Curfew about guys that helped me and Uppy out when we were younger. Like I always love getting guys like yourself that are legends. Like when you first came in the league, who were guys that kind of took you under their wing, maybe out for your first dinner, first beer on the road? Is there any guys you remember that really taught you how to be a pro off the ice kind of thing?
I go back to Brian Sutter, but also I didn't play power play my first 3 years. So Pat Hickey, I played the penalty kill with him, but I used to have like a little heel curve, right? when I came out of junior. In those days, we had the wooden sticks, and then we had this guy, a big Swede on our team named Jorgen Pettersson. And I played with him my first year in Wayne Babbage. And Jorgen would grab my sticks. He goes, "Oh, I like." And he goes, every game, he goes, "Doug, I'll be hiding this lot. Feed me." Because he's not going in the corners.
No.
So Pat Hickey used a straight stick, and he goes, "Try my stick." So I went to a straight Titan at the time because you couldn't break them, and nobody wanted to use a straight stick. So that's where it kind of changed on me. So Bernie Federico was another guy that helped me out, and there's a guy that passed away many years ago, Rick Wilson, that we lived about, a mile away from each other in Kingston, and he was a first-round draft pick to St. Louis, and he took care of me. So my brother-in-law sold me my car. I got my signing bonus for $10,000, and then my first car was a white Z28, baby blue stripes on the bottom, two tops. I get to St. Louis first day. I'm staying with him, and get up in the morning. My speakers are gone. The two tops are gone, and it's like, I guess I gotta get rid of this car.
This isn't working here. This is gonna get sniped in St. Louis.
Yes.
What was it like playing that old barn in St. Louis? Right, that was the old one. I mean, that was a great thing about your era too, Dougie. Was you guys got to play in all those old barns that had character.
Well, it went from the Checker Dome when they made the sale to the arena, and this is a good story. It was a great building. It was electric there. It wasn't downtown. It was close to it, but it was a nice little area. Harry Ernesto owned our hockey club for 3 years. He bought the team off the Raul Saprina for $3 million and bought the rink for $10 million. He ended up selling it 3 years later for about $38 million. But so my third year, we're going into Calgary, 86, Game 7. And if we win, we're going against Montreal Canadiens. And we had a charter all ready to go. We lost. There was no charter. We had to find our way home.
Where's the plane?
Let's just stay here for a bit.
You get your team bonuses from the league, but you also have your personal bonus from the team. And there's Mark Hunter and different guys. We all left St. Louis to go back to Eastern Ontario here, and around mid-July, it's like, it was probably about $12,000 that was bonuses for us for that year, and that's what you lived off in the summertime, right? So finally, you get our check, but when
zero.
Bounce. We didn't. This is the NHL.
Yeah.
We didn't get our checks until mid-August.
Yeah.
For like $12,000. So it was just a different time, and great fans. I was back there not long ago for the All-Star game, and to see some old friends and stuff, and just love the city.
Yeah.
How are you supposed to pay off all those tabs if you have the check balances, right?
Looking forward to it.
I've been buying the boys beers all summer. I needed that 12 grand.
Yeah. What kind of summer am I going to have with this on the lake? Nothing. Can't even buy gas.
Hey, Dougie, I want to ask you about moving forward to the Calgary Flames. A guy that I got to know in Nashville, and Uppy did too a little bit, was Terry Crisp. Obviously, you guys win the Stanley Cup there. It just seemed like you guys had a great group of guys there. Just maybe talk us through winning a cup that early in your career and playing with that team, and how good of a coach Crispy was.
Crispy was great. He was, he liked to scream a little bit.
He liked to talk.
He used to yap at us in between periods, and I first got there. So the leadership with Lanny, Poplinski, Joel Otto, Timmy Hunter, you got Al McGinnis, Gary Suter, rookie that year was Steele Fleury, Gary Roberts, Nieuwendyk, Hawken.
Wow, that's nuts.
Joey Mullen. The list goes on. Brad McCrimmon on defense, and it's we won the President's Trophy that year by 1 point over Montreal, and but I'll never forget. I think it was my first week. The season started, and Crispy's yelling at me in the dressing room after the first period, and Lanny just said to me, he goes, "You know what? Put the earplugs in. Don't listen. We're all here to play, and we know what we have as a team, so we're all going to work together." So, but Crispy was great, to be honest to God. His story that he always comes back to me, he goes, "This is like, 10 minutes to go in the game. I got 2 goals." He goes, "If you get a hat trick in Calgary in those days, you get cowboy boots." He goes, I'll put you back out there, but I want the Cowboys. I said, sure, no problem.
Yeah. He's cutting deals with you on the bench already. I gotta love it.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I wanted to just ask, so that was your Flames run, which is incredible. I remember that as a young kid. Last night, just to talk about recent news, Matty Tkachuk goes back to Calgary for the first time, Dougie. We talked about it yesterday on the podcast about what kind of ovation he got. Well, I thought it was great. I thought the fans stood up, gave him a warm ovation. Then when he touched the puck, there was boos. You were part of one of the NHL's biggest trades, if not the biggest trade, up to Toronto. Any sort of comparison on like what it was like to come back to Calgary after winning a cup and what maybe happened in Calgary that you wanted out?
Well, honestly, Doug Risebrough became GM. Cliff Fletcher went to Toronto that year. I had to go to arbitration. I won the arbitration. He wasn't happy about that. We're in San Francisco. We're going to play the Cow Palace, and before San Jose rink was built, and you know, you have a joining room or joining door with somebody else. And I got up in the morning about 7 o'clock in the morning, and I heard my name. I'm going to trade that asshole. I'm going to trade this guy. And so 7 o'clock in the morning, I'm laying on the floor listening to Doug Risebrough on the phone back east. Or west, but he's talking to people about trading me and other guys. So I knew it was going to happen. So New Year's Eve, we're playing against Montreal, and we have a team party afterwards. And I had all my sticks out of the dressing room except 4, and we won. I scored the team winner that night, and we had a team party. I told the guys, I'm going to Hockey Canada, which was in Calgary at the time. I'm going to go train with them until I get traded. And I apologize to this, but you know what? My time's not going to last here. And so 24 hours later, I was traded to Toronto for 5 and 5. And again, then it just blew up after that. Like McGinnis left, Nieuwendyk left, Roberts was hurt. But it was sad because we felt we had a pretty good team there. As I'm not going to say a dynasty, but we had a chance to win each and every year. And it was a real shame that I left, but you know what? I came to Toronto, and it was pretty exciting times.
Gary Roberts was a machine, eh? Hey, Dougie, I played with Gary. When I was in Tampa, I played with Robs my second year in the league. I'd come in the morning and be like, morning, Robs. And his neck, Dougie, was so mangled that he'd just have to go like that. He'd be in the gym lifting weights and still wanting to fight. Like back when he was young, he was even more of a savage, wasn't he?
Okay, Gary and I were neighbors, and he goes, "Come on, let's go for a bike ride." I said, "No." And first off, I would do hills. I'm a runner. I'm not a biker. So finally, I said, "Okay, I'm going to go with you." And he's got like a $4,000 mountain bike at the time, back in 1980 or 91, and I got a 5-speed. With a baby seat in the back. And so we went 26 miles. And at the end of it, we're going to go up a hill in a race. And I passed him. And he threw his bike down the hill. He was so pissed off. but he came over to my house about, 3 hours later. And I said, "What do you want a beer or something?" He's like, "No." He goes, "Where's your basement?" And it's like, oh, fuck. So I had a little gym down there that I was doing my own training and doing my own running, but he was like, yeah. Gary, he was a machine, man. Honestly, and to this day, he still is. Yeah,
I was impressed about that stage of his career and everything he'd been with, that he was the first guy in the gym, just lifting the whole gym. I love Robs, too. He was great to me in my short time with him in Tampa. So, Dougie, obviously, Toronto, this is where I started becoming a Dougie Gilmour fan. What were your first thoughts before you get there? Because not a lot of success in Toronto leading up to when you get there, right? I mean, they hadn't had great teams throughout the 80s, maybe here and there. But what were your first thoughts when you heard, all right, here I go, Toronto Maple Leafs?
Well, being from Kingston, I was pretty excited about it being closer to home. And there's nowhere to go but up. Yeah. And it was just it was a pretty good situation. I had a relationship with Cliff Fletcher that, he's going to make some changes. Some good things are going to come out of this. And, I can't say enough that I had the chance to play there. And like Wendell, I knew Wendell from the 87 Canada Cup. And I finally told him what I did to him in the '87 Canada Cup, because when he got cut, I signed his Leaf pants to Wendell, best wishes, Claude Lemieux. And he would ask me on the ice. Oh, it wasn't me. It was Muller or Howard Chuck. Somebody else had to do that. But so when I got there, I said, yeah, it was me. So, he was a competitor. You guys know, tough as nails. I can go on with Wendell with stories, but Cliff Fletcher added a lot of different pieces. Mike Foligno, Krushelinski, Bob Rouse. The list goes on, and we added Dave Anderchuk that year, and Darren Pupa for Grant Fuhr, and Felix kind of stole the show from there, and it was just a great run. And what? I think the biggest thing with that team, with Pat Burns too, is that everybody accepted the role. There was nobody saying, okay, I want more ice time. No, whatever happens, just accept your role. And it's even when, young guys are always coming up and they're trying to take my job. I said, your job is to take my job.
Yeah.
I don't want you to do it.
Yeah,
but you can't take my job.
Good luck. Well, good luck, but that's your job. Yeah, exactly.
Well, exactly. But you want to give them the utmost, advantages. Like, you're better than this guy. Come on, keep going. And a friend of mine that he's with Minnesota right now, Darby Henderson. I did that with Darby. I said, Darby, you're better than what you're showing right now. Just go, keep on playing. So that's what we're all friends, and it was back in the days, no cameras and all that stuff, and it was we had our nights, Monday nights at the Phoenix, and Wednesday night at the Loose Moose, and all that stuff. So it's we had some good times for sure. And I always tell the story of Pat Burns when he got hired. He goes, "Yeah, we got a good player, Daryl Gilmour." So then he goes, "No, I mean Doug, so I apologize." And then he called me up and he goes, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm downtown. I live right beside the Gardens, like 30 yards away." And he goes, "Let's go for a couple of beers." So we went for a couple of beers. We went to a place that rhymes with Gilmour's on Dundas in Toronto. And it's called Fillmore's. It's might be a strip joint or something like that. But we were in there for about a half hour. We got noticed and then we left. But he just said, "I want you to be the best player in practice each and every day, and everybody will follow." So
yeah. I wanted to ask you just real quick, Doug. You talk about playing in the city with no cameras, but no social media back then, this and that. Like, how was it for you walking around? Obviously, you guys had success, but did you embrace going places and people saying, "Hey, Dougie, what's up?" Did you enjoy it? Or I've always wondered that. Like, what was it like being Dougie Gilmour walking through that city back then?
It was just different. You know what I mean? Like, the Blue Jays were hot too. And it was just a fun time. And I looked at my balcony one day. We have an open practice. It was not skills competition back then. It was just open practice. And I looked down, and there's got to be 5,000 people sit around in the rink. I'm like, how in the heck am I going to get in there? So I put a ball hat on, sunglasses, and I put my own jersey on, and I stood in line for about 20 minutes. And then finally, when I got close to the door, I walked in. The guy says, "You can't come in here." I said, took my hat off, and I got in.
That's beautiful.
And then the guys were about an hour late. So they're all outside signing autographs, and they looked at me. I'm all dressed. And how the hell did you get in here? I'm like, don't ask. So I wasn't giving my secret up.
Dougie, my boy here sitting beside me loves to rock a black leather jacket like no one's business. Back in the day, I saw you at my draft year, 2002. We were at the Indian Motorcycle Club after the draft. You had one hat on frontwards and you had another hat on backwards. You had the black leather on. I'm like, God, this guy he's fucking buttoned up and looks cool. Has it always been like the fashion, like, the long hair and the jackets and just kind of vibing? Yeah. I know you ride motorcycles. Has it always been part of your life?
Yeah. You know what? Growing up in Kingston, we moved out to the country, and a little place called Lowborough Lake where Kirk Muller lives there to this day, and Dan Aykroyd still. But we had a lot of fun back in the days there. So I grew up on some dirt bikes, and then when I was in Calgary, I wanted to ride a motorcycle. So I bought a Honda 500 just to learn how to ride it. And then I went to Harley. I never had a license, by the way. I had insurance. There was a $50 fine back in the day, so I'm not going to take that test. And so, yeah, I like the leather jackets. Actually, I got one that's coming out really cool. There's 93 of them coming out back up here in Toronto. it's a really cool thing, but it's a leather jacket. Yes.
Nice.
And I pulled into the rink and I think it was 94 or maybe 95, the start of the year. And, I didn't know Cliff Fletcher was behind me, and he more or less said, "Get rid of the bike."
Yeah,
so, I had to get rid of it.
Doug, you parked the bike for the summer, buddy. You can't run around Toronto with the bike. But
yeah,
Doug, I got to ask you. 93, Game 7, you guys go into the Joe and beat the Red Wings. To me, as a Leafs fan growing up, that was kind of the moment where, holy fuck, here we go. Maybe we got a chance. Walk me through just that day, or what you remember, how big that was for the whole franchise to be like, wow, we just went in there and knocked these boys out.
Okay, I just ran into a guy in Collingwood the other day. So we had a little mini training camp in Collingwood before we fly to Detroit. At the same time, my grandfather passed away, and I can't go home. So I got to stay with the team and get ready for this. And our last practice, Wendell and I are walking out the rink. We're walking back up the road, and there's a guy probably about 14 years old driving a Trans Am. And he's got a buddy in the car with him, and he's waving at us, not paying attention, right into a telephone pole. I saw him the other day in Collingwood. He told me this. I started laughing. Wendell was there too, and we were both laughing our ass off. He goes, "I had 5 charges on that. That was my mom's car. We just wanted to see you guys." So the motivation side of it, we lost the first 2 games in Detroit, and then my mom and dad came up for Game 3, and I said, "Bring all my grandfather's T-shirts." So I wanted to wear those under my uniform, and we won the next 3 games, and then we got our butt kicked at home. I think it was 6-2. And then we walked in Detroit for Game 7, and we found a way to win, man. It was a special time, and it was that whole run, like, honestly, 21 games of 42 nights was exhausting, but it was pretty special.
Yeah, it was special for me, Doug. I'll never forget it. And my boy, the Up Dog here, he got Gretzky. He got the great one on our podcast few months ago, probably 3 or 4 months ago, and I had to ask him, Doug. You had to ask him about the high stick that Carey Fraser missed, and I said, Wayne, and he said something along the lines, I had a bad back, so Dougie could deal with a little cut under his eye or something. But take me back to the high stick, Dougie. I got to be honest, buddy. I'm still not over it. It still hurts. But just walk me through that situation.
Okay, so it's Glenn Anderson just took a penalty, and we're killing a penalty last, I think maybe a minute to go in the third period, and it was just off the draw, and he came up underneath. Carey Fraser said it was a follow through, but it wasn't. He came up underneath me, hit me in the chin, and you know what? You just can't blame Carey on this. One referee, there's 2 linesmen out there, but if the linesman call it, it's 5-minute game misconduct. Well, that would have been a riot in LA at the old forum there. So, you know what? I kind of blame the linesman too. Just say, Carey, just say you saw it. Give him a 2-minute penalty, and they're going to play 4-on-4. And again, going into Game 7, you tell me it's like going into training camp. You give me Game 7 at home, I'll take those odds.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Bob McKenzie wrote an article with the Toronto Star saying that Gretzky hasn't done anything in the series. That's not a good idea.
Yeah, way to go, Bob. I didn't know that. Yeah. Way to go, Bob.
Yeah. See, that's the insider we're looking
Doug,
for.
I didn't know that. Way to get Wayne fired up.
Then he has one of his best games of his life. He's the best player in the world, man. And I copycatted. I played against him. I checked against him. I learned how to play behind the net. And again, it's like you always tell kids, and I know it's hard sometimes, but even the kids that when I was coaching in junior, I said, guys, watch the NHL guys. Have your favorite player and watch what he does. Yeah. And you can learn from that and come into practice and challenge it and practice it. And that's how you get better.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Speaking about behind the net, one of my favorite Dougie Gilmour goals ever was against Cujo. That was playoffs too, right, Dougie? Where he did about 6 turnarounds behind the net there, and Cujo didn't know what was going on. But you don't see that much. It was just a great goal, like character, classy goal.
Well, you know what? Again, I've never practiced that, and you know, people, it's like, could you do it? Not a chance. It's one of those things, guys, that I was behind there. Nicky Borshevsky was high in the slot, and Andrechuk is the big body that I'm looking for. And I went this way, I went that way, I went back this way. And you know what? Andy had Zombo blocked, and I just spun around, and luckily it went in. And again, Cujo made, I think, 80-something saves that game. It was double overtime. And the nice thing about it was, like, I didn't have to practice the next day. It was awesome. It was just it was a rest day. But true, after the game was over, I'd lie on the trainer's table and both arms out, and they put IV in me, and I'd go home like I didn't even play. Yeah. So it was a special time, and I thank the doctors. Otherwise, again, 21 games of 42 nights, and you're going to the West Coast, and then the next year, 93-94 season, we lost to Vancouver, and they went 2 games at home, 3 games in Vancouver, then 2 games at home, and we lost second one, and then we lost 3 there. So it was a great run those 2 years, and then we traded our captain, and I know we got mats and everything else, but that was a lot of heart and soul in that dressing room. Because I'll tell you a story of that 94 series. We're playing Vancouver, and Gino Ojic's all over me every shift. And Wendell skates by Pavel Bure by the face-off, says, "Pavel, if Gino touches Doug one more time, we're going to knock you out." And that was it.
Yeah,
I didn't see Gino the rest of it.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
That's why you need a Wendell Clark on your team. But there's only one Wendell Clark.
Yeah, but go after the star player.
I know, exactly.
I'm going to knock you out. Like,
It happened in our era a little bit, right? Yeah. Like there was that respect factor,
especially come playoff time. I would. And, I was no Wendell Clark, but I would go to the top players and be like, "Hey, he keeps fucking around with the Sedins. I'm coming after you, Taves, or whoever it was throughout my time."
Exactly.
Yeah, Dougie, you talk about the IVs, like that old Maple Leaf Gardens, it would get hot and steamy in there in the playoffs, right? So I'm sure you were probably after the game, you're like, first of all, give me a cold beer and I'll take those fucking IVs. I remember going and I was sweating in a t-shirt.
Well, again, we had pajamas in those days. We didn't have, you change your underwear every period. Yeah. It's like you're soaking wet, and our skates are so. I'd have 2 pairs of skates. They'd change all the time, try to dry the old dows, and it was just, it was horrible sometimes. It was so hot in there, and if anytime you started getting dehydrated, trainers come over, give you salt tablets, and drink some water with it. Hopefully, you survive.
Did you love that barn though, Dougie? I never got a chance to play in it, but did you? I mean, going to it as a kid, but. It was special, right? It just had that feel and that smell, and the blue seats were right here on top of the net. Like, it's lucky someone didn't get killed by a puck, to be honest with you, back in the day.
No nets.
Big time, big time. And it was a really cool arena. And even at our bench, there was a stool, and people are going by you. Okay, you're on a stool. They're going by in between the bench and you with beers, and they're spilling beers on you as they're going through.
Oh, that's right.
They have some respect. Either bring me one or stop spilling it on me.
They walked behind you, boys. That's right? They walked behind you? Yeah, that's right.
The bench is there. They walked behind us, but there was one stool on the right-hand side that you're sitting back. So if you just came off, you're not getting back on for a couple shifts. You're going to sit on that stool. People are walking by. It doesn't matter if stoppage of play or not. They're walking by, so and they're right behind you, so you can hear everything they say. Yeah, and it's just different times, and the electric buildings of back in the '80s when I broke in. Obviously, Chicago Stadium was one of the more unique ones, and you always had your shoes and your underwear, and socks. You put your shoes up top because if you left them on the ground, the cockroaches would be in there. It was brutal. So it was so much fun, guys. It's just different times. But I can honestly say there was so much respect too, because if you did something wrong, it's payback time. And so you try not to do something that is going to cost your team. And again, other people getting hurt by a bench clearing brawl, whatever. So.
Dougie, talk about, we're Canadian kids here. We love the Rock'em Sock'ems. We much respect for Don Cherry. He loved you, kissing you on the forehead and coach's corner and all that good stuff. Yeah. What did it mean, being part of being in Toronto with him during, him and Ron McLean's, era? What was that like?
Okay, I'm going to go back. He's from Kingston, Ontario. Yeah. A lot of Kingston guys are Boston fans. We had Wayne Cashman and we had Rick Smith that played on the team. Grapes actually coached my brother in Rochester, Americans. So he he went to school with my parents, so it was kind of a little biased of the Kingston guys. I get it.
Yeah, I did. That's okay. That's okay.
But no, he, like, when we won the cup in '89, I had to shake his hand before every game in the playoffs, and if I didn't shake his hand, we lost. So I looked for him all the time, and a great man. I got nothing but great things to say about him. I've known the family. His brother Dick Cherry was one of my scouts in Kingston, and Dick played, with Philadelphia as well. And so Donnie was just a great supporter. And again, for I'd say everybody in hockey with the old school hockey mentality, and if you know Don off camera, that's not him.
Yeah.
But that's his job, to act the way he does and come across. And come on, everybody shut the TV off the music at a bar after the first period to wait for Coach's Corner to come on and see what he's going to do. So well missed, and just a great person.
Yeah, he's the best. And, after my second year in Vancouver, after game 1 in Chicago, we kicked the shit out of him. And I saw Grapes and Ron there. And my uncle, Dennis O'Brien, played for Grapes in Boston for a little bit. So I got my dad, my uncle, Danny Gabbo. I said, boys, let's go in here. Went in, talked to Grapes, took a picture with him. I mean, it was just like you said, like, off camera, he was a completely different guy, but on camera, he was the best too. I don't care what you say, Dougie. You turn on Sportsnet now and watch a game, you still miss Coach's Corner. He brought something so great that was so pure that, I mean, listen, when I first got on Coach's Corner, Dougie, I got a text from my boys from Port Hope, from Coburg, Ontario, and they said, "Fuck, Gobes, you're on Coach's Corner." I felt like I was in the NHL from that moment on.
It's amazing, right? You get the towel. You have that opportunity to go on. And again, for me, just knowing him for a long time, and we were playing in Minnesota, St. Louis. I think it was my third year, and it was a 3 out of 5 series, first round. We're in Minnesota, game 5, and he said to me, it's a Hockey Night in Canada game. He said, "You know what? If you want to be on TV, do something tonight." So I actually had a goal and 3 assists that night, first time on Hockey Night in Canada. So just a great motivator, and again, just a legend.
Yeah, he well is. And obviously, you brought up Kingston, and I played my junior hockey in Kingston Frontenacs. You're a good Kingston boy. And a guy, Larry Maverty. I'll tell you what, Dougie, without Larry Maverty, I may not have played one game pro because I wasn't the most conditioned athlete. And I go into Kingston and I go, Mav, he's like, "You got anything to say, kid?" I said, "Is there going to be any, running testing at the training camp?" He goes, "I never see anyone run across the ice, kid. You'll be okay." So for me, he was my perfect coach. Just tell me, we lost him a couple years ago, but what Mav meant to you. And, I love that you went back and was coaching GM at Kingston, Dougie, as an alumni guy. It meant a lot seeing you go back. But Mav was a beauty, wasn't he?
He was. So I'm with the Toronto Marlies as an assistant coach with Greg Gilbert. And November, I get a call from Springers and Mav. It's like, "Hey kid, you gotta come join us here." And it's like, "Oh, I just took the job here, guys. I'm a month into it." And so, you know what, my parents, the best thing I ever did was to go back there, not for the hockey side of it, but to be with my parents before they passed on and stuff. So so again, Mav had me in Belleville, Tier 2, the Bulls, and I was with the Kingston Voyageurs, and as a defenseman, I was playing about 5 minutes a game, and so I'm going to go back to major midget. I got my release. Mav calls, and I go up a level, so I go to Tier 2, and it was again just something special. And game 3 against the Aurora Tigers, I got in a second fight against this Rick Morocco guy, and it's like, "Oh, kid, I don't know if you're playing tomorrow." I said, "Well, why not? Why am I not playing?" He goes, "It's going to cost $50 to get you back." So obviously, I think that's what I might have been making. I said, "I'll pay it." And, then with game 7, it was just they had a coach over there with a fur coat on. I think his name was Ted Tobias in Aurora, and they brought the Stan Adams guy up from the Rangers organization. And 6 seconds into the game, we had 3 guys from Chicago, and they were crazy. And it was a bench clearing brawl. obviously it doesn't happen anymore, but it was something that was surreal. And like, I'm 17 years old going, what the heck? Or 16, turning 17, what the hell's going on here? So, but back to Mav, love him. He's just a great person. And, you know what? He's helped me out with my career. And just as you said, you know him, you play for this guy, he's going to reward you.
Yeah. I swear to God, from Kingston to Belleville, Dougie, he must have smoked 15 cigarettes from Kingston to Belleville. I was my rookie year. I was sitting in the front of the bus. I'm like, this guy's going to smoke 12 darts. It's 47 minutes, Dougie, down the 401.
Oh, yeah. You know, poor Matt. Like, towards the end, he wasn't smoking or anything like that. So I'm coaching, and he's the GM still. And it's like, you know what? OHL Cup's on. Let me go watch one game, and I'll be back for our game time. He goes, okay. Well, I'll run practice then. So he's out on the ice. He's standing in the middle of the ice, and doesn't he get hit and breaks his hip?
Oh,
like, just be on the boards. He's 68 years old. He doesn't have to be in the middle of the ice.
Yeah.
But he's just a survivor, man. He was a great guy, and his wife Brenda, she still works in Kingston and runs the tickets and all that stuff. So. He's well missed, man. Yeah,
I agree. I wouldn't have made it without Mav, so well said there.
Well, Marty McSorley would say the same thing.
Dougie, I've been to Kingston one time. It was roughly probably 5 years ago. I went to see a Tragically Hip show. It was the last one they did. Gord Downey, God rest his soul. We're big Tragically Hip guys here. You got any good stories about, the days of Gordie? I was there with Kirk Muller, actually. I smoked a cigar with Dan Aykroyd, which was amazing. Yeah, nice. I loved it. I went into the show. I had I think every Canadian remembers that concert. It was played in CBC coast to coast. But any good stories of Gordie back in the day? He was a legend.
Well, yeah, no, we got to know all these guys growing up in Kingston. I was a year older than them, and I was at the last concert as well. But so I came back from I think it's my second year, and from St. Louis, and so. Robbie Baker's dad is a judge. So we're at a golf tournament, see Judge Baker, and say, hey, how's Robbie doing? Robbie and I played lacrosse against each other, on the same team with each other. And yeah, he's doing well. He's with this band called the Tragically Hip. And I said, okay, I'll look out for him. I'm in St. Louis. You're not going to hear these guys, 2 years into it from Canada. And then, again, I don't have any stories on these guys, but just great guys. And again, there's three of them that are still in Kingston that are awesome guys, and support the Frontenacs as well. But legends guys. Obviously, anytime at last concert, especially, like, it was just so. We were invited to go back and see them all. I said, it's not our time, guys. Let them enjoy it.
Yeah.
And so it's just a great band.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like me and Updog will pump some Tragically Hip on the golf course out here, Dougie, and the boys will be like, who's that, fellas? We're like, fuck, greatest Canadian band ever. But for whatever reason, they never made her down south. But you just think of hockey, you think of the Tragically Hip for sure. So, Dougie, first of all, man, thanks a lot for taking the time. Let's talk about the Leafs real quick here before we let you go. A lot of pressure on the boys. They're snapping around right now. Marner's got a 17-game point streak, but we all know it's going to come to playoff time. What do you think of the squad? What would be your advice to maybe some of the stars there about moving forward here this year for them?
Well, again, it's a long season, as you guys know, and it's you're going to have ups and downs. And the first 10 games, the fans here weren't too happy with them, and now it's kind of changed around again. And so it's they got great offense. You look how well they're playing right now defensively with three guys out. And it's something that's the commitment that you're going to need. And especially in the playoffs, you know what? Everybody's got to hit somebody.
Yeah.
Everybody's got to compete.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing. And you guys play the game, but my thing was, if somebody hits me, I'm going to hit them back. at some point in time.
Yeah.
And they knew that I'm coming back. And so that way you're making more room for yourself. Like,
exactly.
I'll never forget, like, anybody that said hi to me during a game, whether it's a forward, whatever, that means they don't want to compete against me tonight.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I like this. He said hi to me.
Yeah, you tipped his hand. You're like, you tipped your hand, you fucker. Yeah, you shouldn't have tipped your hand because I'm going to two-hand you on the laces.
Yeah, these pocket kings are going to crush you.
No, my biggest thing was, especially defensemen, when they run me and they take off and I'm behind them, I'm going right after the calf. It's going to shut down the third period. So
this Sherwood's going to feel good over that puppy, right?
Believe me, it slowly hurts.
Yeah.
You get a little bit slower as the game goes on, and I'm going to find a way to beat you. But again, guys, it's a game that you compete, you love, and you know what? If they get past the first round, who knows what could happen? That's my call on it, because they've had the chances, and unfortunately, it hasn't worked out.
Yeah, and Dougie, that's why everyone loves you, because you would two-hand someone in the calf. And I will say this, Dougie, I'm looking at a picture here from '93. If Mitch Marner looks like you do in this picture here, I guarantee they get. I will guarantee they get past the first fucking round, Dougie. If he looks like this, you got the chin strap down with the cut over your eye, they will get past the first round. So, in my opinion,
and that's the other rule that pretty much as I left the game, there's a 2-finger rule.
I know.
Because I think I had a 5-finger rule.
Yeah.
You were the reason I wore my chin strap down like that. I would always love it just down like that. And then when I played with like 2 fingers, I'm like, fuck that. Gilmour didn't have to do the 2 fingers, boys.
No, exactly.
Dougie, you're great for the game, man. Thank you.
Yeah, Dougie, thank you for, buddy. I appreciate it, buddy. And like I said, you're one of my favorites, you and Wendell growing up. So thank you for taking the time, and you're a legend, my man.
Pleasure, guys, and continued success.
Fella.
Up dog, that was.
What do you think?
I had my super fan shirt on a little bit. I was a little bit of a super fan.
You did great. I
was sweating. My ear things are sweating more than normal. I was a little nervous.
I thought you were top of your game.
I was excited
top of your
for
interview game. You were excited. You're looking at one of your legends, right?
Yeah, I felt like
awesome.
The kid from 38 Highland Drive. I actually text my buddy, shout out to Jason Krager, who grew up beside me, was like the brother I never had. But we were huge Leaf fans. I said, buddy, I got Dougie G coming on today. Yeah. So
I think the fans, if you're listening and it's on your pod, just tune in to see Obie, how fired up he was on YouTube. Just you want to watch this one. This was a good one.
And some great questions by you. The hip question was awesome. The trade, from him from Calgary to Toronto was a great question. And then the one about the leather jacket.
I had the leather one. I had that. Listen, when my draft year, I went out the night of the draft. I had a couple buddies of mine in town, and we went. It was in Toronto, and walk into this club, and it might even have been Dougie going, "Hey, get in here, kid!" And I'm like, "Fucking Dougie Gilmour," and he had the one hat on frontwards, one backwards. I mean, I could do this with the Missin Curfew things like this. He was like this in the bar. It was awesome, man. And I'm like, Dougie Gilmour's an absolute beauty, and he had the black leather jacket on. Everyone, I mean, fan favorite, obviously. Everyone was fucking loving him, but I always admired the motorcycle thing. My dad drove a motorcycle when I was a kid, and he talked about not having a license. I've had a motorcycle since I was 21. I still don't. I had someone, forge my driver's license to give me a motorcycle license on it. They did the A, whatever, it gives you your motorcycle license. So like Dougie Gilmour, I don't have my motorcycle license. But I walked into my first training camp and had basically a biker gang in Nashville. Billy Holder was probably leading the pack.
Billy Holder.
You know what Billy Holder looks like?
Funny.
Look at the handlebars on Billy Holder. I got all time.
I'll pull him up here.
Scott Walker, Thomas Focoon. Hartnell did not have one, but Cale Hulse had a bike. It was there was 6 guys showed up to practice in Nashville on motorcycles.
This Billy Holder looks like he fucking deserves to be on a Harley. He's got the handlebars. You know what's funny? Trotsy sometimes would go to me like, "Oh, but you know who you remind me of? Billy Holder." Billy Holder. And I'm like, who the fuck is Billy Holder?
That's
and
funny.
He looks like an absolute beauty, but I got to be honest, he doesn't look like he was probably the fleetest of foot out there, but he looks like a glue guy. Was he a glue guy?
He was a glue guy. Yeah. I mean, this was the 4th year of the Nashville Predators. So I think he was given a spot on the team because they didn't have any money. Sorry, Billy.
Sorry, Billy, but God, you're a beauty. Look at that handlebars.
He is a good player. Good player. Good guy.
Up dog. So thanks a lot, man. Thanks again to Dougie Gilmour. Unbelievable guy. Yeah, that was a great interview, buddy.
Great interview, and it's nice to see him. The game was so great to Dougie Gilmour, and he was so great for the game, right? So it was nice that he's took his time to share some of his stories. Here he's a big prankster. Claude Lemieux signing Claude Lemieux's pants, Wendell's pants.
Yeah, and then he's like, I got traded. He's like, I told him right away, hey, Wendell, that was me, buddy.
Yeah, it's a legend. Yeah.
So thanks again to Dougie. Up dog, you're a beauty. Max and Binger, thank you. That was Missin Curfew. Fellas.